In today's lecture, we'll be solving quadratics using x-intercepts. Our objectives will be to solve quadratics by observing graphs, and then to solve quadratics using the calculator. So let's begin by finding x-intercepts. If I give you this quadratic equation and I ask you to solve it, one way you could do that would be to set it equal to y, draw the graph, and find the x-intercepts. So that's exactly what we'll do. Once we graph this, here's the picture you see, and what we're interested in are the x-intercepts. Well, let's remember, the x-intercepts are the places where the graph crosses the x-axis. So there are two of them, and they're right there. Well, if I can identify those 2 points, I have the 2 solutions for my quadratic equation. Well, it turns out this one is at -2, and this one is at +3. So those indeed are the 2 solutions for the quadratic equation. Let me just make sure that you understand. That means that if I took this number and plugged it in up here, it would make this statement true. Also, if I took this number and plugged it in, it would also give me a true statement. Those are solutions, and we can find them by graphing and finding x-intercepts. Let's do another one. This time I have a -x squared plus 6x minus 5 is equal to 0. You should note that when you graph this, the parabola will open down. This time we're looking for those x-intercepts. Once again, we see that there are 2 of them, and there they are. This one is 1, and this one is 5. So those are exactly our 2 answers. X is equal to 1 and 5. Well, this is going along rather well, so let's do one more. What if I give you x squared plus 5x minus 2 is equal to 0? Once again, we're going to write that as y is equal to x squared plus 5x minus 2. And we're going to graph that. Well, when we graph it this time, things don't go quite as well. I want you to notice here, this intersection, it's still there, I can see it, and so is this one. But I cannot tell you exactly what they are. It could be that this is maybe -5 1/3, but it could be -5 1/4, and I'm really not sure if it's either one of those exactly. Over here I could be looking at maybe 1/3, maybe 1/4, maybe 1/5, or really it could be 7/18 for all I know. I just really can't identify it by reading the graph, so we're going to need another method. So let's see if we can find an x-intercept this time using the calculator. And I want you to notice that this time I have used the word zeros along with x-intercepts. And those 2 terms will be interchangeable as we go forward from here. So let's take that same problem that we had difficulty with just a minute ago, and let's see if our calculator can help us find those x-intercepts or zeros. Well, this time we'll enter it on the calculator. y1 is equal to x squared plus 5x minus 2. We'll graph, and you should be able to do that okay. And here's the picture you're looking at. And remember, it's exactly what we saw just a minute ago. And I still have those 2 intercepts that I'm interested in. I just cannot exactly look at them and identify them. So our keystrokes for finding the x-intercepts will be second, trace, or calc. And this time we want to choose 2 for 0. Now, before we go any further, let me make sure you understand. We'll be doing this process 2 times. We'll focus on this intersection first, and when we have finished finding it, we'll go back and find the second intersection. So when we entered second calc 2, your calculator should have come back and said left bound. When your calculator says left bound, here's what you want to do. If we're going to find this intersection on this side first, when it asks you for a left bound, it's asking you to place it on the left-hand side of the 0 you want it to find. So anywhere on this side will work. Remember, you'll be using your left and right arrows to do this. So you should move to right along in here on your calculator and then hit enter. When you do that, the calculator will say right bound. What it's asking you to do now is position it on the right-hand side of that same 0. Remember, we're going to do the process twice, and so right now we're finding this 0. So you should position the blinking cursor on the right side of the 0 you want to find, and then hit enter. So you should have been somewhere right along in here. Once you hit enter, the calculator will say guess, and as always, we never argue when it makes its guess. When we do that, it comes back and you'll see the word 0, and it has found this one right here. And notice that the 0 it found is negative 5.372281. Now that's an estimate. It's not an exact answer. We can tell it has truncated that. But I do want you to notice that it is not negative 5 1/3 or negative 5 1/4, any of those things that I would have guessed. As a matter of fact, never in my wildest dreams would I have guessed this one. Now remember, we have another intercept or 0 to find. How are we going to do that? You're going to go all the way back over to this step right here. When you do this, you'll start again with second, trace, 2, and go through these same steps one more time. And when you do that, this time you'll get the other 0, and there it is right there. So we do indeed have the 2 solution. This should remind you a lot of when we use the calculator to find our vertex. Remember, we chose minimum or maximum then, but we still use that same concept of left bound and right bound. This is just like that, only this time you're asking your calculator to find a 0 instead of a minimum or a maximum. It's a short lesson today, but there's a lot packed into it. You'll want to make sure that you practice. I want to leave you with my thought for the day now. One must be slow to form convictions, but once formed, they must be defended against the heaviest odds. That's all for today, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.